In 2014, a crack toy fixer was banished from the forums for talking about repairing vintage toys. Undeterred, this man promptly set up his own YouTube channel located in the Somerset Underground. Today, still wanted by hardcore Star Wars collectors, he survives as a maverick toy restorer. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find him, maybe toy-polloi can help you. Welcome to toy-polloi. Parental guidance. This video contains scenes of Lego destruction.
Hello and welcome to another video from toy-polloi. Now today we're going to take a look at fixing up these vintage Star Wars or Empire Strikes Back Han Solo in Hoth outfit figures. I have a Hoth Army that I'm building and I want to sort of add these beaters to that, and at the moment they are not things that can be added because you can see a couple of them have lost their heads, one's lost his arm, and this poor guy has a foot missing. But I reckon with a little bit of work we can get these beaters so that they at least look presentable, and really that's all I'm going to do today. I'm not going to fix up the paint. This is just about fixing limbs and getting these figures so that they look like they can go in my army. And they all have fairly common issues and things that you tend to see quite a lot with the Han Hoth figure. I'm not sure why his head breaks off so often, but it does. I actually picked this figure up fairly recently at a charity shop and I went to rotate his head and it just snapped off, and I've seen quite a few like this, and I've even seen ones on card where the head has snapped off. So that one we should be able to fix quite easily. We have another one here where the arm has snapped off, and again this happens to quite a lot of figures and it's a very easy thing to fix, so we'll do that one. And then we have this poor guy here who is missing one foot. Now I'm not sure why he's missing one foot, but again that looks like it is snapped off at some point, but he has some good pieces, so we will be able to use parts of him to fix up the others. I think the first one we're going to deal with is the Headless Hand on the left, because that should be the easiest thing to fix, although it is a little bit more fiddly than you would imagine. So let's get on with him first. Right, as you can see, this is a poor headless Han Solo. At some point this head has been removed and we don't have it, so we're going to swap the head from this one with the broken foot onto this one. And you think that would be quite a straightforward process, but actually it's not, because both of these figures have different COO markings on the back. You can see this top one with the head missing is a Hong Kong figure, and the one underneath doesn't have any country of origin, and that means that the head pegs are going to be different. So you can see here this is one shape of head peg, and if I remove the head on the other Han Solo, you can see that the shape of the head peg is different, which means if we put this Han Solo's head on this figure, it's all loose and floppy, and that's absolutely no good for what I want to do, and it's no good for display. Now we could sort of drill out this head and put in a Lego peg, which I've shown you before, but there's actually a simpler way just to fix this, and that is using some Ptfe tape. So let me get that tape and I'll show you how we can alter the top of this Han Solo so that we can put this head on, and in a way that we can also swap it back. If we ever find the correct head, we can take it off without damaging the figure. So let's get this head so it's not so floppy. What you'll need is this. This is Ptfe tape. This is the sort of stuff that plumbers use to wrap around joints when they're sort of screwing pipes together, and it gives a very nice seal. And you can see it's quite a thin tape. So we're going to take a short length of this tape and we are going to cut that off. And now we need to wrap this around the peg that's on this figure, but we only need to wrap it around the sort of rounded end. You don't want to wrap it around the main sort of pole part of it, just the end. So we're going to carefully place that onto the peg like that, and then start wrapping it around the top section, because what you want to do is make that top ball slightly larger. So if we just keep wrapping this around, you can see it starts to build up and it's making the ball part of the neck post a little bit wider. I'm just going to wrap that around. You can be fairly sort of messy with this because all of this is actually going to get hidden inside the head of Han. And there we go, we've wrapped that round. You can see I've got a little bit of excess at the top, but that doesn't matter. We take Han Solo's head, we'll put that little bit inside, and then we can push this on like so, and you can now see that that head is quite firmly in place, no longer rattles around, and that figure will be good enough to go in my beta army of Hoth figures. And at some point, if I ever find a replacement head or a different body, I can easily take that off and I can remove the Ptfe tape and swap it out. So that will do perfectly well for my Ptfe Army. For these other two Han Solos, we are going to use the same trick that I have shown you before, and that is to use Lego pieces, because Lego is a very useful tool when it comes to fixing toys, especially Star Wars figures, because there seems to be a sort of universal size of the holes that we used for limbs and places like that. So I have here, this is a Lego axle pin, so it's part axle and part pin, and it just so happens that this pin part fits very neatly into the hole of the shoulder there, so we can use that as a basis for a new joint. You can see it actually fits in nice and firmly. And again, we can do the same for the head. Obviously the head has snapped off here, but if we drill a hole into that, insert another one of these axle pins, and then drill a similar hole into the head, we can make a new fixing that will allow this head to still rotate but also sort of keep it nice and clipped on. So that is the way we are going to deal with this. So first thing, let's deal with the arm, because I think that's the longest job to do. We are going to drill a hole into this broken off arm shoulder here. Now what you need to do is find a drill bit that is the same diameter as these Lego pieces. The Lego pieces tend to be sort of the same size. The inner diameter is about 3mm and the outer diameter is about 5. So you want a drill bit that's just slightly smaller, because we're going to drill a hole in there, then we can shape this axle pin so that it fits in, cut it down with a pair of plastic nippers. But first thing we've got to do is to drill a hole into this arm, and we've got to drill in only sort of 2 or 3mm, because you don't want to come out the other side of the arm. Now I would suggest that you do this using a vise or something to hold this, but I'm going to be doing this on film, so I'm just going to be doing it on my cutting mat here. But do be careful when you drill, because it is quite dangerous. I've been doing this a long time, so I tend to just do it here, but do be extra careful if you're doing this for the first time. The hole, as you can see, is drilled in only a few millimeters, but we now can take the Lego axle pin and shape this so that it fits into that hole. You can see if I just push that in, it will fit quite nicely. So we're going to chop off the large part of this peg, then we're going to shape the end, because the drill bit obviously has a slight point to the end, so we can shape this so it's got a slight point, and that will fit in really quite firmly then, and then we can add a little bit of super glue and get everything sort of glued in place. So first up, let's just cut this down. I'm going to say about there. Do a test fit of that, just see how well that goes in. Yep, you can see that's not too bad, just needs a little bit of modifying, and that should fit very nicely. So I'm going to shape this so it's got a slight taper to it. Something like that should work very nicely. I'm going to glue this in place now, and then I'm going to cut off this little ridge that you can see there. That's where the sort of the two halves of the Lego pin have a little ridge between them. I'll glue this in, and now I'm going to cut that off, because then when we drop that into the arm, at the moment if you've got that ridge in place, you can see that we will end up with a little ridge between the two parts, so we can chop that off as well, and then it will fit in very nicely. But I think that's going to work very well. So let's get that glued in place, and then we can trim that ridge off. I just have some standard super glue here. I'm going to drop that into the hole. Just one drop should do. We can then take the Lego peg, we'll push that in. We'll let that glue go off, and then we can get a knife and just cut that little ridge off. It's easier to do once it's all glued in place, and then that should fit quite nicely. The glue has now had time to dry, and I've trimmed off that little ridge there, so we can test fit this into the Han Solo figure. Let's just push that in and see how well that works. That looks pretty good. It should be nice and rotatable and posable, which it is. And there's a similar gap on each side, which is what I wanted. So I think that figure is done, and we can move on to the Han Solo with the missing head. With Han with this broken neck post, we're going to use the same idea. We've got a Lego axle pin here, and I'm going to drill a hole where the neck post was so that we can insert the axle part of it into the neck hole, and then we will drill out the head where the peg has snapped off so that this Lego piece will slot inside it, and then we can just sort of slot that head back on, and it should work really nicely. I've actually shown you this before in quite a few videos, and the end result is always really good. So first thing to do, well, the only thing to do really is to drill these holes. I'm going to drill a hole there, and I'm going to drill a hole there. So let's get them drilled, and we will get Han's head reattached to his body. And as you can see, I've now drilled 2 holes, so I'm just going to insert this Lego axle pin in there as the new neck post. I will glue that in the end, just with a bit of super glue, but for the moment that actually holds pretty firmly. And if we take Han Solo's head, you can see there I've drilled out the inside of his head, and this now fits very nicely onto that Lego post, and you can rotate the head fully. There is a slight gap there at the back. Again, that's that little ridge part of the axle pin just sticking up slightly, so I might again trim that off once I've glued the peg in place, but otherwise that works really nicely. So let's glue the neck post in place, and then I'll trim that off as well, and we'll class that figure as done. The 3 Hans have now joined the ranks of my small Hoth Rebel army. As you can see here, it's starting to look like quite a nice selection, but these are all absolute beta figures. And the good thing about using Lego to fix them is that you can actually start to make some nice customs. I have here, this is the Han that we have just replaced the head on, but I know I have here another Rebel soldier where, again, the neck post is broken, so we can actually swap these over. So you can actually make quite a nice simple custom there, just swapping the head of a Rebel soldier onto a Han Hoth, and that actually looks pretty reasonable. So as I get more and more of these broken figures, I'll be able to start swapping parts around, especially if they all get sort of fixed up in the same way. And all I'm left with from doing these repairs is the remains of one poor Han Solo in Hoth outfits who is missing a head and missing a foot, but he'll go back in my little body bag of Star Wars figures of parts, and at some point I hope to find some more pieces and I will be able to sort of fix that one up, or use him to fix parts on another figure. So it's really worth always keeping broken Star Wars figures, because you never know when they are going to come in handy. And as you can see, I'm ending up with quite a nice little sort of Hoth army here, all out of the dregs of other people's collections, the ones that no one wants. So I'm really always pleased to find a beta and add it to this selection. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, make sure and hit the subscribe button, and also make sure to click the bell so that you're notified every time that I upload a video. And thanks for watching.
Thanks for watching toy-polloi. Subscribe for more great videos. You can also follow toy-polloi on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.